Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. I hope you're enjoying our gut health series. If you've missed the previous couple of episodes we've done, please make time to go back and listen to them at some point. They are, really building on each other to give you a really good foundational knowledge of your kids' gut health. It's a huge area, so I wanted to split it up over 4 episodes. So this is episode 3. In our first episode of the gut health series, we talked about why your child's gut health is so important, the 6 main areas. And in last week's podcast episode, we talked about 4 things in your child's diet that are depleting their gut health. This week, I am talking about the 3 chemicals your kids are exposed to that are ruining their gut health. It all sounds pretty negative, doesn't it? But really, my goal here is to make you aware of some of those things that kids are commonly exposed to or consuming through their diet that are slowly depleting their gut health. So there's less need for intense kind of gut health work in terms of building it up. And last week I used the analogy of a leaking bucket. If we're solely focusing on, getting all of the good things in to build up our kids' gut health, but we still have a lot of this exposure to foods and chemicals, then it's sort of like trying to fill a leaky bucket. We want to plug up those holes first with awareness and making steps, progress towards reducing our kids' exposure to some of these things within their diet and the chemicals that we're going to be talking about today. So unfortunately, our kids are exposed to more chemicals and toxins than kids ever have been before. And it is, pretty dire when you look at it like that and you look at some of the stats. But if we are aware of these things as parents, and today we're going to focus on a few that are having the most detrimental effect on our kids' gut health particularly, then we can, make some changes to try and reduce our kids' exposure to these things, or in some cases, make sure we're replenishing and doing that gut replenishing work after exposure to some of these things. So the first chemical that I want to talk to you about today, is really a group of medications. And of course, medications can be life-changing, life-saving. I'm not saying don't ever use any of these medications, but what I find when I share this information, which I've done with our Natural Super Kids Club members before, is a lot of parents don't know this stuff. And so you don't know that you need to do that gut replenishing work after your child's needed to take one or more of these medications. And I think most of you are probably aware that antibiotics have a detrimental effect on our gut microbiome. Antibiotics kill bacteria. And of course, they save lots of lives every single year. And I, for one, would not want to be a mum. Think back to the days when mums didn't have that reassurance of easy to access antibiotics if their kids did get infected with a nasty bacteria. But the problem is that antibiotics are way overprescribed these days, and that's causing, a lot of issues. And this happens particularly, in pregnancy and in very young, babies, newborns, because, there is that higher risk. So antibiotics are often prescribed unnecessarily for pregnant women and newborns. And they're getting that exposure to these medications, in that crucial time where that gut development is happening. So again, I just want to really make it clear. I'm not saying you shouldn't give your newborn antibiotics. You shouldn't take antibiotics when you are pregnant, anything like that. They are definitely necessary sometimes. But, you do just want to make sure they are necessary before taking them. And sometimes, a second opinion from another doctor can be helpful. So, but more importantly is to understand that antibiotics kill bacteria, so they also kill the good, healthy bacteria within our microbiome. And many of the kids that I see with gut issues have been on really early life antibiotics or lots of courses of antibiotics over their lifetime for, infections, illness. And over time, that definitely does have a major impact on the gut microbiome. And so anytime you need to give your kids antibiotics, anytime you take antibiotics, you really want to make sure you are replenishing the good bacteria after you've taken a course of antibiotics. And so that could look like, some really good quality probiotic supplements. And there's, certain foods and things you can focus on getting into your diet after antibiotics as well, the fermented foods, the probiotic foods. But I would always recommend taking a course of good quality probiotic supplements after taking antibiotics. So it's pretty common knowledge that antibiotics have a detrimental effect on the gut and the gut microbiome. But what is lesser known is that a lot of other medications can have a detrimental effect on the gut microbiome as well. Including the oral contraceptive pill. Now, this isn't obviously relevant for kids, but it is relevant for us mums. So I wanted to mention that. I was on the oral contraceptive pill for many years, and my gut definitely suffered because of it. And I think there's lots of women out there that, just aren't aware of that impact that the pill does have on the microbiome. So if you're on the pill, definitely make sure that you're taking a good probiotic regularly. Steroids can have an impact on the gut microbiome as well. And anti-inflammatories, antacids, antidepressants. So it's important if your kids are on any of these medications that you're doing some extra work to look after their gut. And I do recommend professional help if you're needing help in this area. We have some really handy online express appointments that you can book through the Natural Super Kids website to get some quick advice onto what would be the best probiotic or sort of treatment plan for a child or an adult post taking or while taking these kinds of medications. So again, I'm not saying don't ever use these medications, but just that awareness that these medications are having an impact on our kids' gut health and their microbiome. Okay, the next chemical that I want to talk about, this is a big one, are a group of chemicals really, antibacterial substances, antibacterial chemicals. Hello, pandemic. When these, antibacterial chemicals, if we weren't using them in excess before, which I think we were, we certainly have been over the last couple of years. And look, there is a time and a place for these. There's definitely been a higher need to use antibacterial chemicals, whether it is in personal care products, in cleaning, in commercial cleaning. So there has been a higher need for these kinds of hardcore cleaning chemicals. Most certainly. So there is definitely a time and a place to use these. But, really early on in the pandemic, I remember the big focus being on hand washing is the most effective way. But still, I can't even imagine, how much growth there has been in the use of antibacterial hand sanitizers, antibacterial soaps, hand washers, cleaning products. And, even before the pandemic, there's always been this marketing to mums that makes us believe that we need to use antibacterial products to protect our kids, to keep our kids safe from the nasty germs, to keep our house sanitized and safe for our families, and not to mention, that sparkling clean look. And I remember, you might remember an ad here in Australia, I don't know, a couple of years ago, where there was that mum that was wiping her bench with a piece of chicken. And I think the message of the ad was something along the lines of, if you're not using this chemical antibacterial spray, then you may as well be wiping your benches with a chicken breast or a chicken leg, which is absolutely ridiculous. There are definitely a lot of other options than using these harsh antibacterial cleaning products within our houses. So things like hand washers, hand sanitizers, floor cleaners, surface sprays, air sprays, mouthwashes, dishwashing products can all contain pretty harsh antibacterial chemicals. And of course, again, antibacterial, anything antibacterial is potentially going to have a detrimental effect on our microbiome that is made up of, really precious and beneficial bacteria. And even when we're using these products externally, they can make their way into our kids' bodies. So when we're mopping our floor with that antibacterial floor cleaner and then our babies are crawling all over the floor, some of that is going to be ingested. Or if we are using antibacterial dishwashing powders in our dishwasher, there's going to be traces of that left on the plates that our family then eat off of. So there's lots of examples, like that we can try and start to reduce our use of and move towards more natural, eco-friendly, low-tox products. Now, this is a huge area, but to give you a starting point, there's a couple of chemicals that you really do want to try and avoid in this antibacterial chemical group, and they are triclosan. So that is spelt troclosan, triclosan, and triclocarbon, triclo carbon, carbon. So these are pretty nasty antibacterial chemicals. We want to try and avoid them if we can. The tricky thing is that labelling laws here in Australia and in lots of other countries it's not essential for cleaning products to label every ingredient that they are using within a product. And so labelling laws make it really tricky to be able to determine whether certain products contain these chemicals, but still look out for them. Avoid any sort of product that has triclosan or triclocarbon in it, and anything that says antibacterial on it. You want to be looking further into what the ingredients are in there. Good old, soap and water. You can use things like bicarb, vinegar, and as I said, there's lots of pre-made, natural, eco-friendly products that can be really great to look into. I also just want to add, there is a time and a place for these kinds of chemicals. If gastro's going through the house, if COVID's going through the house, you might want to use antibacterial cleaning products. But on the whole, you really can get away with less damaging chemicals and more sort of natural, eco-friendly products within your home and within personal care products as well. Now, the third chemical I want to talk about, now this is going to ruffle a few feathers probably, but I do always like to talk about this, and it's essential oils. Now, essential oils, aren't a really detrimental chemical that we use. Essential oils are naturally based, but what I want to come across here is that essential oils are really concentrated, and you need to take really good care and caution when using them. And the thing that irks me about essential oils is that there's unqualified people out there, within these multi-level marketing kind of programs that are selling essential oils and encouraging, I've seen it myself in Facebook groups and things, encouraging mums to give their kids a drop of this essential oil in their water, or a drop of that essential oil added to their food. So my, overall sort of blanket rule of essential oils is do not take them internally without qualified advice through an aromatherapist and an aromatic medicine practitioner, not from someone who sells the oils that doesn't have any qualifications. I love essential oils. I just want to say here, I love using them in, to like in a vaporizer at home. I love using them to clean, to use externally. They are fantastic. They're great to use in cleaning products, personal care products, but you do need to be really careful taking them internally, particularly things like oregano, lemon. They're just a couple of good examples that I've seen recommended in online forums to take internally because they are antibacterial, so they probably will have a good effect at helping to kill bacteria that might be making someone sick. But so oregano, for example, it has really strong antibacterial properties. So when you are taking it internally, it is going to have an effect on the gut microbiome. And, as a herbal medicine practitioner, I do recommend taking oregano for some people when they have got dysbiosis within their gut to get on top of any overgrowth of bad bacteria. But you really need to be careful with dose, and you need to be careful with post-care, making sure you're replenishing that healthy bacteria that could have been killed off within, by taking oregano. And I would never, ever recommend something like oregano for children because it is so potent and so strong. I can't remember the exact stats, but, for example, a drop of lemon oil contains dozens of lemons in there. So you've got to remember that these are concentrated forms of, they're concentrated botanicals. So don't take them internally unless you've been prescribed them from someone qualified. Use them externally. That's absolutely fine. But you do really want to be careful with internal essential oils. I wonder if that's something you've heard before. You may have heard me talk about it before. I always get lots of messages, emails, Instagram messages saying, what? when I start talking about this. But I thought naturopaths liked essential oils. Yes, but they need to be used in a really careful way. So really important to understand that. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe for everyone, doesn't mean that it's harmless for all situations. And especially with someone who has got a gut that might need some work, attention, might have some imbalances, throwing in some harsh essential oils is generally not going to be a good thing. So those chemicals that we want to be careful of when it comes to our kids' gut health and their microbiome are the medications that we talked about, the antibiotics, but also the oral contraceptive pill, steroids, anti-inflammatories, antacids, antidepressants. The second one was the antibacterial chemicals in cleaning and personal care products. And the third one was essential oils. So I hope that's really helped you get clear on some of those things that your child might be exposed to that you can start reducing, or in the case of the medications, making sure that medication is absolutely needed in the first place. And then when your child is taking that medication, or after taking it, if it's just a short course of antibiotics, you want to do that gut replenishment work. Okay. I really hoped you enjoyed today's episode, and come on over, send me a DM on Instagram, Natural Super Kids, and let me know what you thought of this episode. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week.